What's happened? Is it the kids?
No, what was the best meal you had in Italy?
What?
I just caught that cookery show with what's it, Stanley Tucci. He's a good-looking fella, don't you think, for a bald-headed man? Anyway, he was just traipsing round Sardinia. You didn't go to Sardinia, did you?
No.
No, so, come on. I'm going shopping. What was your favourite meal? With Tyrone.
Well, we had this gnocchi thing. It had tomatoes and chilies.
Gnocchi.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 296 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street culture podcast that wonders how much of the drama that occurs in Weatherfield could be nipped in the bud by the simple installation of some speed bumps. I'm Gavin.
And lessons in communication.
Obviously.
We'll get to that later.
And charging your fucking phone. And being careful when you nip off for a shite.
Right. And if you put something in the gunnel, keep it in the gunnel.
Ginnel.
That's what I said.
Okay then. How are you?
Well, I am pleased to announce, officially, as of Monday, Auction Talk is back, bitches.
Wait a minute. New Auction Talk. Some people have missed that.
I know.
I have no idea why.
It's part of the reason why I took the job.
We must bring back Auction Talk.
Now,
Or Easter on Jupiter, as I like to call it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is not as good as Christmas on Mars.
So tell us more.
Yes, so I will be basically doing the same thing that I was doing, only at a different auction company that also does estate sales and also has their own consignment shop. And so I feel like there's more viability there.
Viability?
Yes.
Viability
Of the business. It's not relying just on auctions to keep it afloat. So I feel like there's less tension and less competition there, which would hopefully lead to less bullying. Actually, I know most of the women who work there already. They are a delight, and they all love Paul, and Paul loves me. Paul, my former coworker, who is still my friend, who I text with every day, and who I'm going to have lunch with tomorrow. So it's all nice. It all works out in the end, folks.
There you go. Some sad news, though, that you have a longer commute.
Yes, but
And some further sad news is you can now share your commute with me.
Right, yes. I was going to say, one of the best parts of this is that we can commute together, which I'm going to enjoy because initially, when we first moved here and we were working for the same business, we commuted together all the time. And I really enjoyed that. It was nice to have that little extra time, just you and I together in a car.
I'm not a talker in the morning.
With free beer and hot wings. Remember when we used to listen to free beer and hot wings?
That's still a thing.
I know, but we don't listen to it anymore.
No.
Because it's terrible.
I don't listen to any radio anymore. Not since 94.1 The Edge became a country station. Jesus.
And betrayed you.
Oh my God.
But you listen to the 106, the Q106 sometimes.
Not really. I'm podcasts in the morning.
Yeah. I'll kind of miss my delightful 3-week vacation of being able to watch movies and also keep the house a little tidier than I'm capable of doing when I'm working outside of the home. It's been nice to be able to run the Roomba every day and go around and pick things up, like discarded yogurt containers.
Oh God, there's another one of them in the living room. It just drives me crazy. Throw them in the bin.
That got left overnight and the cats cleaned them out, so I didn't have to rinse them out before putting them in the recycling bin this morning.
Nice.
So the cats and I clean up after the children. I'm Snow White.
Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that vacuumy Corrie news.
It's all Swain all the time on Corrie.
Whoop, whoop.
As Vicky Myers has officially become a full-time member of the cast. Yay! Yas, woo!
Yas Queen.
Yas Queen. Yes.
She sent us a lovely little message to thank us for her support.
Yeah.
Bless her.
Yes. Because I think we have a huge responsibility
Oh,
towards
here we go.
pumping her up.
We
Pumping
have
up the jam.
been very enthused about
Right.
her performances and the things that, like I said, I think a million times before, it's like the writers are writing a police officer really well, but she's the one that's bringing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you have to have both.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't be happier unless Imran decided to rise from the dead. So just finishing up the Corrie news that I wrote.
that would be a turn up for the books, certainly.
Yes, that'd be fun. Can you imagine? Well, he's already been turned into a wooden marionette on Doctor Who, so it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to a zombie.
Yeah, most of their storylines are zombies these days, so
Well, they involve a zombie knife.
so why not a character? I'm so glad that they called it a zombie knife. We'll get to that
Yes.
later, I guess, but because that's what it is.
Yes.
It's not just a knife.
No.
It's a particularly violent
It's not
knife.
a knife. It's a zombie knife. Corrie as well.
What the fuck was that?
That was my terrible Crocodile Dundee impersonation. It's better earlier in the day.
Australians, I'm so sorry.
Do you really think they care? Don't you think they think that Crocodile Dundee deserves to be taken down a notch for
Yes,
spreading,
Crocodile Dundee's got too big for
spreading-
his crocodile boots.
spreading stereotypes about the Australian people that the Hemsworths have been trying to erase with all of their good work in movies ever since?
I don't know, that question was so long I kind of drifted off in the middle of it. I'm sorry. Sure. Why not?
Quite excited. One of the things that I'm really excited about Furiosa for, besides just a Furiosa movie, is that Chris Hemsworth is like the baddie in that, and that's kind of awesome to see Thor turn into a baddie. Yeah. Anyway, that's not Coronation Street.
No.
Corrie, as well as Emmerdale and Hollyoaks, were not on the list as the nominations for the Royal Television Society Awards were read out this week. Maybe take that into account, writers of Coronation Street, Emmerdale, and Hollyoaks.
I think it's obviously reflective of the quality of the storylines that we've been getting
Yeah.
in the past year. 2023 wasn't a
It wasn't
great.
great.
Year.
Not great.
It's been better more recently, but I guess that's not what they're getting judged on at the moment. But
Yeah.
it's kind of embarrassing when your flagship shows are
Yeah.
more or less overlooked.
Yes. Absolutely. But now that Vicky Myers is a full-time member of the cast, I'm sure that'll change.
Oh, had we done talking about that? I'm not sure that we had. Because I have a few concerns about it.
We've moved on.
Well, let's just go back very quickly.
Okay.
Because I feel like she's so beloved
Uh-huh.
that it almost worked better when she had that distance between
Her and, the
her
rest
and
of the
other
cast.
characters, right?
Yeah.
Because she didn't give a fuck about Coronation Street
No.
or the characters on it. If you're in her line of sight, then that's it. That's all that really matters. So it's a thin line that they're going to have to kind of balance here to get the Swain
Right.
that we know and love kind of separated from the Lisa that we haven't really seen anything of. And there's a kind of that mystery round about her private life, like we've had with Gadass and Bishop Greg and stuff.
We know.
We don't want too much light on that because it ruins the mystique a little bit.
We have some light on Gadass. First of all, she's a badass.
Sure.
And also, we've seen her family, and we know she's a lesbian. And Swain is going to be a lesbian. I guess tertiary characters with actual careers are lesbians. Mm-hmm. And they're only
Just
allowed
like-
to be lesbians.
Just like real life.
Sure.
Oh, please do this well.
Yeah.
Because I love the character.
Me too.
I love what she does. I love what Vicky Myers brings to the character.
I know. Me too.
I don't want that to be spoiled.
But, there have been moments in recent storylines where she's been in it a little bit more, where people immediately recognize her when they walk into the police station or when she is making decisions that we're like, this does not feel like Swain. This feels like somebody who doesn't have logic in their pocket. And I'm kind of worried that sort of thing may continue, especially what we know about spoilers coming next week.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but about there not being the Swain that we know thing.
There have been moments. There were moments like when she thought that, well, it was Amy, but then there was somebody else too.
Because the Amy thing I felt was reasonable.
No, you didn't at the time.
Yeah, I think I did.
We were both kind of, this doesn't feel Swainy. Some of the stuff, not all of the stuff. And I think it was somebody else besides Amy. I think there was somebody else who was recently called in.
Peter?
Oh, yes, the Peter stuff. Yes, it was Peter.
Well, that was reasonable.
But it wasn't. Some of it was and some of it wasn't. Like when she kept thinking that he did it intentionally.
Well, he did.
Well, no, but he did it to save Jenny. He wasn't intentionally planning on murdering Stephen that day, sort of thing.
No, he intended to run him down, though.
Right. He didn't intend to kill him, though. Just get him out of the way so he doesn't hurt Jenny. Anyway, this Corrie News is becoming a quagmire.
A quagmire of Corrie News.
So let's continue with our last bit of Corrie News, because it's the part that makes me laugh the most.
Okay.
And finally, Les Battersby actor Bruce Jones, 71. Now let's all remember, he's 71. Has taken on a career as a wrestler and will apparently get in the ring with a current member of the cast during the bank holiday in May for an all-star wrestling match. Apparently, a couple of weeks ago, he was wrestling somebody as well, somebody not in the cast.
I saw him try to hawk some tickets for it on Twitter, but I didn't really twig what exactly it was he was hawking. But this is brilliant. Bruce Jones, you are a fucking legend. Wrestling. Who do you think, because they're keeping a secret who from the cast he's wrestling. Who can you think of who's had some money issues lately who might be willing to get in the ring for some extra cash? Well, he's not going to wrestle Ken Barlow, is he?
Can you imagine?
I think that was all sorted out anyway.
70 years old and 90 years old in the match.
I imagine them wrestling Tony Maudsley.
Tony would crush him.
Yeah. Well, he's 70. Most people are going to crush him.
Yeah, but Tony's a big guy. Tony would crush most people.
I think Tony would be a great baddie in a kind of giant haystacks. He's not the size of giant haystacks by any manner of means, but I still think that would be quite interesting. It can't be any of the young whippersnappers, because that wouldn't be fair.
Although I was kind of thinking Simon Gregson.
Yeah, that might have wings.
Can you imagine him in a singlet?
I can now. We'll take a quick break.
And that's Corrie News.
Oh my God, Helen, Corrie News. It was long. Let's not pretend that it wasn't.
No, because you wanted to go back to Vicky.
But the remarkable thing is that it leads us quite seamlessly into our feedback section, which I like to call Everyone's a Critic. Wendy was in touch. You may remember Wendy, she's the one that has a list of things the show's forgotten about.
Yes.
And she'd like to add something to that list.
Delightful.
Do we still speak sign language in Gemma and Chesney's house?
I think Gemma still does, and she does it in the pub too.
Gemma does occasionally. Chesney was learning it and never does
did it. No, he never does it.
So I'm going to add Chesney learning sign language to the list.
Okay. That's fair.
Let's just check through and see if we can remove anything from it. We've got Damon as a child abuser. That's still true. PC Tinker has OCD. Still true. Stu had a deadly cough. Yep. Roy gave everything to Nina, then never took it back. Toyah is a murderer. Mason ran over Eliza. Now, the show kind of remembered that, or the start of it this week. I'm going to keep it on, though.
Yeah.
Just for
yeah,
now.
because we haven't officially, and I'm quite concerned about that, which we will talk about later.
Yeah, we haven't quite joined all those dots together.
No.
Tommy O gave evidence in support of ITV Corrie. That's still true. And Chesney learning sign language. Thank you, Wendy, for that addition.
Yes.
She also says, are we supposed to laugh at Cassie when she's nasty to Evelyn? I'm half expecting her to harm her physically. She creeps me out.
Yeah, I didn't like the return of Cassie v. Evelyn this week. I did not enjoy that at all.
I much prefer it when they get on.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And it bothers me because it's like Cassie can flip like a switch to the evil manipulative Cassie
To
again.
whatever Cassie gets the most things for Cassie.
Right.
Version of herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't... I'm sure it was played for laughs this week. And I don't know that it landed all that well.
It didn't. It did not for me.
Then Holly wrote in, thoughts about this week. Far too much Daniel. If Lauren has gone missing, wouldn't the police need the flat untouched? Well, I suppose if they're treating it like a missing person, but
But
really
they're
weren't.
not, yeah.
And are we supposed to really believe, after all the years we've known him, that Roy has been fritzeling racist Kelly?
No.
And that's kind of where they're pointing to, I think, this week.
Right.
That Roy is involved
No.
in this in some way. I've
I
always
think-
thought that Roy knows something,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's involved in it.
Well, let's remember, the only person who thinks Roy is suspicious is the person who's fresh on the street, who does not know Roy yet.
Yeah, and I kind of like that.
Yeah. Is the only one who could have accused Roy.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, Roy could have explained himself better, but apparently they're not allowed to explain themselves on the show.
Then Cheeky wrote in,
More of this later.
I was really excited to see Dylan take responsibility for his role in Crimes Against Liam. While I'm upset that Mason got away with it again, I know his comeuppance can't be too far away. Also, Samia Longchambaum put in her best performance as Maria. She really was good this week.
Yes.
Maria is the kind of dedicated mother who will do anything to protect her child. It was
She
some
beat up a van once.
strong work. She really did. It also brought back memories of when she lost her original husband, I'm sure. The thought of losing a son is such a vivid pain, and I'm glad the writers took the time to really explore that on Wednesday. One can only hope parents look at their kids and truly investigate whether they are suffering in silence. In school, I know that was something that I contemplated doing, but realised very quickly that if future generations of young people with physical challenges stayed quiet when they were being bullied, no one would have a voice. I'm grateful that Liam
Amen.
finally spoke up, because that character and the actor can be a voice for the voiceless, and their pain will no longer be in silence. Very well written. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Feedback is always welcome. Thank you to Cheeky,
No this week?
Holly and Wendy this week.
No.
Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. And note, we reserve the right to make slight edits to correspondence in the interests of brevity. And now we'll podcast for coffee. We're buying our own coffees this week. I say that we're buying our own coffees this week. We're not buying our own coffees this week. The monthly friends of the podcast pay for our coffees all the time.
Well,
So
that's true.
we have no
Yes, but I've
one-off
been-
payments.
But I've been unemployed.
Don't,
What is wrong with you people?
That's not nice.
I'm American.
You're not supposed to be nice.
Correct.
This new job's going to go well.
They're American too. Although, oh my God, I forgot to tell you.
Oh, no. We can't go back. We've done with the preamble.
Sharon, the person who interviewed me, she watches Coronation Street.
No!
Yes!
No, she doesn't.
She does!
Fuck off.
She's not up to date because she watches it on like YouTube. But she absolutely knew what I was talking about.
This came up in your interview?
It did, because I talked about the podcast. And I mentioned the fact that, you know, I'd been interviewed by the New York Times and you'd been interviewed by The Guardian.
We're not talking about that.
Well, then you can cut it out. But you can't. And I was singing the praises of the podcast and how it is effective in my social media training. Yeah, Sharon watches Coronation Street. Isn't that crazy?
That's almost impossible to believe.
She knew exactly what I was talking about. Apparently, she also watches EastEnders.
Yeah, I'm less interested in that.
That's
but
true.
Sure.
Sorry, I just now
that's
remembered.
Completely derailed any train of thought that I had. So I'll just read what I've got written down here then.
Okay.
The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes, but if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street, and you can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. And now, this.
Welcome.
Well, welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just enough time to quickly talk about Get Out.
Get Out. Were we talking about Jordan Peele last year? Tonight?
Do I take another run at that?
No.
That's right, this was Carla noticing that Tyrone, who didn't work at the factory, was in the factory. Get out, she said. I was Gavin, and you were nearly done with the Oscar movies. You still had 5 to watch. I had seen 33 out of 54, and today I've still seen 33 out of 54 of last year's Oscar movies. This year, I think I'm 48 out of 53.
Yeah, you've seen more than I have. I still have to watch Napoleon and Flamin' Hot and Four Daughters and Robot Dreams, which isn't even coming out in this country until after the Oscars, so that's null and void.
Did you watch
Io Capitano?
the 20 Days of Maripol?
No, because I have to pay for that.
Okay.
So there's that one, and then... Oh, and To Kill a Tiger, which will be on Netflix Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, we're watching that before the Oscars.
You were working on the man cave auction that made me question your definition of a man cave. I'd been forced to think an awful lot at work this week. That's the same as this week.
Don't you have to think every week?
No, but really think.
Aren't you good at that?
Really think.
Aren't you like the smartest person I know?
And since COVID, I'll be honest with you, thinking an awful lot has been
Difficult.
tough.
Yeah.
Women Talking triggered you less than Coronation Street did. Amy struggles to piece together the events of the night before until she sees Aaron at speed dial. Beth finally comes clean about slapping Hope. Tim is shocked to discover that Tim's mum is planning on moving into a fancy new house with Stephen. While Hope milks Tyrone for all he's worth, she and Sam grow closer. Faye continues to delete Jackson's texts and insists that she doesn't want contact with Miley. Daisy goes to have lunch at the bistro and is shocked to discover that her mum's new boyfriend is Justin. PC tinkers in a huff.
I'm so glad that's over.
Is a boxer's guy, and Daniel is just the worst. And our moment of the week was Ken and Bertie looking at birds. And our boring moment of the week was Tim cooking curly fries for Faye's birthday. And that was Coronation Street and the Talk of the Street, this time last year.
I'm so glad nothing has changed.
Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Our first storyline tonight is Harvey's appeal.
Ian.
On Monday, Adam is one click away from submitting Harvey's appeal when Sarah comes into the lawyer's office. He apologises for his behaviour the other night and she accepts, but she wants these divorce papers signed. And today, chappie, it's her anniversary tomorrow and she's getting a bit nostalgic, but he reminds her that he's not a good person. When she's gone, he deletes the appeal and seems to send the CCTV footage that he got in the little pen drive off to the filth. Later, news travels fast and Harvey is on his bum phone to Adam, promising that he's a dead man as the cops now know that John didn't kill Natasha.
John!
All right, John!
Done!
John!
Done!
Adam denies it, but Harvey isn't buying it. Adam goes to see Sarah and begs her to take him back. He doesn't want to get divorced, and she makes him a better person, but Sarah's mind is made up. They're done. And the argument goes out onto the street, and Bethany appears, but Adam sees a car coming towards him at speed and pushes the womenfolk out of the way and ends up getting gently knocked down.
And he doesn't get back up again.
So this inspired me to collect little clips of
Everybody getting hit by
everybody
cars.
getting knocked down since about 2012. I think I missed a few of them, but I got a good 2 minutes worth out of it, which was just enough time to put the Primitives' Crash underneath it.
Tub Thumper was right there.
Tub Thumper?
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
I get it. Yeah.
You know, the song I just referenced when I said he didn't get back up again.
Oh, I didn't realise that that's what you were
Yes.
talking
I was
about.
going to say he also didn't drink the whiskey drink.
He did
or
drink the whiskey drink, though.
Vodka drink, or the lager drink, or the cider drink.
What did you think of his getting knocked down?
I was surprised that it seemed to do more damage to him than falling off a balcony onto
From
falling
the
one
mezzanine,
story.
from the mezzanine level of a shopping mall.
Yes, onto hard linoleum.
He
Or
narrowly
whatever.
missed landing on Daniel.
Yes.
That was a shame.
And he narrowly missed clocking his head on the side of a hot dog stand.
Yeah.
That mall was very empty.
I don't know. The thing that my little clip compilation, I think, demonstrated was people get knocked down by cars far too often on Coronation Street.
It's true.
It's like without searching all that hard, I found 2 minutes worth.
Yeah. You didn't even have to rewatch Meet Joe Black and throw Brad Pitt in there,
I didn't.
even though that's the best ever scene of somebody getting hit by a car of all time.
I did get Kaz's foot getting hit by a remote control car. That was quite funny.
That was funny. I liked that one.
Yeah, I don't know. He seemed to do more damage to the car, I thought.
Yeah. He shattered that windshield. I don't know how, but he did.
My favourite of the clips was the one where a car reverses into Craig and he goes flying, and that was quite impressive. He got a lot of air out of that.
He
The
did.
stuntman, because obviously it's not Coulson,
Right.
so the stuntman got a lot of air before landing, kind of on his hip. It looked like it was a solo
Yeah.
one. I'm sure that they planned it that way, but
Right.
but still, yeah.
What about the one where Leanne gets hit and then somebody else gets hit?
No, Ryan gets hit.
Ryan
and
gets
then
hit and then Leanne gets hit.
reversed over, while Michelle screams and does nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That's how we got Nick back.
I wasn't sure that. I mean, just it's reaching for the lowest common denominator, trying to get somebody to knock somebody down. But who was he trying to knock down? Was he trying to knock down Adam, or was he trying to knock down Sarah or Bethany? Because there seemed to be some sort of debate about it. I just
Right.
assumed he was trying to hit Adam. Why would you not hit Adam? I'm going to hurt somebody that you love. Well, yeah, but why not just hurt him?
Because it hurts more for him to hurt somebody that he loves. It's psychology.
His ex-wife? Yeah.
And his ex-wife's annoying daughter?
Yeah.
No.
Bethany and Sarah are devastated as Bethany calls an ambulance. Bethany can't get a hold of Daniel, but Daisy can. Daisy answers the phone to Daniel.
Daniel answers the phone to Daisy.
Not to Bethany. That was
It's very interesting.
skipped over, I think, but let's take note of that. And he turns up in time to be a fucking nightmare,
Oh,
demanding
God,
to know
he's
what happened.
terrible. Here they're freaking out about Adam, and the only way he could show grief is by yelling at women.
Yep. So Daniel continues to do a nightmare at the hospital as he quizzes Bethany and Sarah about who was driving the car and all that sort of stuff. Daniel apologises, but then there's a prick again when he learns that there was an argument. Daniel apologises again after that. It turns out Adam has a broken arm and some jam on his head, so they're going to put him into a coma just to be on the safe side.
He broke some ribs, too.
Adam comes round and is immediately interviewed by not PC Tinker, He wants to know if Adam has enemies, when Adam makes it sound like this was a deliberate attack. Meanwhile, Daniel has remembered to say that he's grateful that Bethany is okay. Sarah, meanwhile, obviously still cares very deeply for Adam, and when she goes to see him, that's pretty much confirmed, but Adam doesn't have time for this, and he urges her to leave town immediately with Bethany and Harry. Their lives are in danger because of him getting Harvey wanting revenge when Adam couldn't get him out on appeal. Sarah quickly susses that all this is about Damon, and Sarah is now back to square one, and she tells Adam to suck her fucking balls.
Seriously.
On Wednesday, Nick goes to visit Sarah and Damon, outraged to hear the news that Adam got into bed with Harvey. Not like that. Nick,
Wouldn't that be awesome? I'd love to see it.
I think I'd prefer Adam and Damon. That sky blue does not do Harvey any favours.
Where are we at with hoping that Ryan and Daniel get into bed together?
Nowhere.
I thought we were really into that idea. Remember when they were like buddies for a while? And we're like, are there sparks flying here?
Daniel and Ryan?
Yeah. Remember when they were trying to get along for Daisy's sake?
No.
Gosh, you forget so much these days.
Nick wants to tell the cops. Damon thinks that that'll make matters worse and promises to sort it gangland style. Daniel is playing high and mighty when he picks up Adam from the hospital. It seems that the man who pushed his elderly father down the stairs has taken exception to Adam's behaviour, although it seems that the thing that he's most worked up about is that thanks to Adam, Daniel blamed Sarah for walking out in the middle of the street, like he did, when Kathy knocked him down. Later, Damon calls Harvey to call off the dogs. Harvey will only do it if Damon does that stupid fucking robbery thing again. Reluctantly, Damon agrees.
Which is stupid.
They've been planning this thing since before Christmas, haven't they?
Right, yeah. So one would assume that the armored car is long gone by now.
The moment has passed, Harvey. Daniel takes Adam to Nina's Rolls, where Nick gets laid into him, which leads to Ken learning that Adam was helping Harvey get out of prison.
Adam.
Ken's got his murdering gloves on and demands to know what Adam did. Back home, Damon tells Sarah that he's spoken to Harvey and it's over. Sarah worries that Damon's done something stupid, but he insists that it was all on the up and up.
It was something stupid.
Sarah doesn't believe him, but doesn't really care. And later outside, a sheepish Adam asks Damon what they're really going to do about Harvey. And Damon tells him that he's cleaned up the mess, and that's all that he needs to know. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got your wife to shag, and I'll clean up that mess too.
Aha.
On Friday, the mood is still tense at the lawyer's office between Dee Dee and Adam. Dee Dee still thinks that Adam was trying to blackmail her because he was, and she's looking for somewhere else to live. And Adam begs her to stay.
Even though it's her flat, she should just kick him out.
I know.
Kick him out.
And insists that the two of them are good friends, and he holds her in the highest regard. He asks for a second chance and for her to think it over. So they meet up in the Rovers later, and she agrees to stay in the flat and be friends with him if he will make her partner, and he's only too happy to do so.
Because of something in another storyline.
That's as far as we get with that this week.
Correct.
It's almost as though trying to get Harvey off of a murder rap just because you're annoyed at who your ex-wife is boffing is a bad idea.
Yeah, seriously.
What was Adam expecting this to end like?
Are you a little annoyed that this turned into a nothing burger and then became something even worse? That like Adam set up this whole thing and then deletes one file and it's over.
Yeah, he thought about deleting the file, then he deleted the file.
Right. He thought about deleting the file. Then Sarah came in and told him, insisted that he was a good person, and it got to him, and he deleted the file.
Well, the whole thing had been getting to him really since they put the wheels in motion, apart from the first week.
No, it didn't get to him until last week when Nick pointed out, when Nick and Leanne found out and said to him how devastating this is going to be for Sam. And then he's like, oh, that's right. This is going to fuck up other people, not just Sarah and Damon.
I don't know.
He's not a very, very bright man, is he?
I don't think it was just last week. I think there was parts before that where he looked like he was changing his mind, and then Sarah would say something or Damon would say something and he'd quickly change his mind back again. I don't know that he was all that convinced that this was a great idea for
He was pretty
for a little while now.
Because of all the schooling he was doing to John about
he met him twice.
Right, and then he was like on the phone to him.
Once.
Once that we saw. I'm sure there was more that we don't get to see.
There were definite moments where he was looking like he was, I don't know if this is a great idea. And then Sarah would piss him off and he's like, yeah, this is a great idea.
Yeah, I think you're giving him too much credit.
No, I'm just recounting things that happened in the show.
Yeah, but sometimes you interpret facial expressions wrong.
Shame on Dee Dee, though.
Huh?
Shame on Dee Dee.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, she turned a blind eye to the insider trading thing, but this was attempted murder, and he was trying to blackmail her.
Yeah.
What she should really be doing, rather than going into partnership with him, is setting up her own legal practice and competition.
She'd do well to do that.
Imran didn't even make partner.
Didn't Imran make partner right before he died?
Barlow's Legal Services. That's what it was called.
Huh.
And that's what it's still called. So now it's going to be Barlow Bailey Barrister Boffing Services Limited. Yeah, she's getting into bed with an unethical lawyer, which is worse than the complaint that she had about Ed refurbishing the pub with Damon. She should have more sense in this.
Yes, but let's remember, the only reason why she did this is because of something that happens in another storyline.
That's not a great look either, is it?
It's not, but it is what it is. Because honestly, where was she going to move besides back into Ed's house, which she's never lived in?
Well, that was the plan, was to move.
Right, yeah, but that was supposed to be temporary. And that would mean that the other Baileys would have to come to work more often. Because it wouldn't make sense if Dee Dee was seemingly living there alone. So they'd have to get Ed and Michael on the set more often than they do right now, where both of them seem to have disappeared again.
I don't think that would have been too difficult. No, I was just a little disappointed in that was as easy as it was to win a round, offering to do something that he said that he was planning on doing anyway. Well, it kind of takes a little bit of the sheen off it, I thought. So Damon agreeing to do this stupid armed robbery thing.
Which is so stupid.
And you know, is this going to end up getting Sarah back with Adam? Is it as obvious as that once Sarah finds out that he's part of an armed robbery and maybe he's going to get caught or maybe he's going to shoot somebody or, you know, any manner of things, because it's not going to go well.
It's not going to go well. No. Yeah. I mean, I was already angry when it kind of seemed like that was going to happen this week. I was so happy when Sarah found out about the whole Harvey thing so that she would be pissed off at Adam again. Because I was like, oh, come on. He's going to get hit by a car. And that's going to make Sarah want to marry him again.
It's the way to her heart, as we saw when Gary got run over.
Did you see how quick Gary was to come and comfort Sarah when Adam got run over?
He was quite quick.
He was quite quick. Watch your back, Maria.
He's settled with Maria. That's just Gary being a nice guy, like the supervillain he was. All right, we'll move on to Fizz is back.
Rana would disagree.
Back again. Guess who's back?
It's Fizz.
On Monday, Evelyn is run ragged to get the kids out the door. Ty and Fizz are due back, but today, Hope thinks this means Evelyn will be going back to the horrid flat, as the only reason that she's there is to cover for Ty, and this gives Evelyn some food for thought. Later, Evelyn and Cassie are arguing about who's going to move out. They seem to be getting along really well as well. I mean, I think the worry about Evelyn moving back in was that she and Cassie were going to be at each other's throats all the time, and they weren't. They worked together quite well when everything's settled.
Yes.
So anyway, Cassie yells at Evelyn, calling her a cow, just as Fizz and Tyrone walk in. Cassie and Evelyn put on their church voices as they make a high tea for Fizz and Ty, hoping to cover up that little faux pas. Cassie doesn't want to be seen as a monster-in-law. Think of her as a big sister, she says to Fizz.
That's not creepy at all.
When they think they have the place to themselves, Fizz and Ty agree that Evelyn and Cassie can't both stay, but let's hold off making an agreement until later in the week because of the drama. And there's added drama to the drama when it appears that Cassie was on the other side of the living room door, eavesdropping.
Yes.
On Wednesday, and so it begins at number 9 with Cassie and Evelyn juggling to pretend each is more vital to the happy house than the other. We learn later that Evelyn has lost the precinct flat because the landlord found out that she'd been subletting to racist Kelly. That was quite funny that she'd got out. Mm-hmm. Cassie makes everyone breakfast and teaches Hope how to speak Scouse. Evelyn has been helping Ruby with her Little Big Shots monologue. Cassie did the shopping and the laundry. Meanwhile, Fizz is struggling to readjust to the simple machinist role that she's got after being a big shot supervisor in Norfolk. She's also got some ideas that the factory could implement. Carla pretends that she's keen to listen to them and promises a meeting at some undefined point. And when the meeting doesn't happen, she goes back to complain to Carla about her machine and maybe she'd be better used in a supervisory capacity. Carla tells her to hop onto Sean's machine instead. Cassie and Evelyn continue to bicker and outscore each other. Fizz and Ty get wind of this, and despite Tyrone being happy to let this situation go on where all their meals and laundry are taken care of, Fizz puts an end to it and agrees to a trial run where everyone stays. The logistics are not discussed.
Well, I mean, what were the logistics already? Because they've both been in that house for quite some time now. And they were in the house with Tyrone, right? Where both of them were living there with Tyrone?
At some point or another, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like Fizz is kicking one of them out of a bed.
Unless Tyrone's sleeping with his mum. Oh. Or his granny. Oh.
Right. So one would imagine that sleeping arrangements had already been sorted out.
So the girls have got their room.
Right.
Although was maybe Evelyn sleeping with the girls. Maybe that was happening.
Right, but
because otherwise it's a 3-bedroom house.
Because Fizz coming back shouldn't affect that, though, is what I'm saying. If Evelyn was already sharing a room with someone, Fizz coming back does not kick her out of sharing a room with someone because it was obviously not Ty she was sharing a room with.
But it does make it kind of impossible to think that Ruby, Hope, Evelyn and Cassie are all going to sleep in the same room.
Well, no, if there are 3 bedrooms...
Yeah, but if there's not, that's a problem. If there's not 3 bedrooms,
right? Well,
if
then
there's 2 bedrooms,
where was Cassie sleeping then?
Like I said, with the girls.
No, you said Evelyn was sleeping with the girls,
and possibly Cassie as well.
Do you think there were 4 people, 2 of them being adults, all in one room?
That's what I'm saying. Isn't happening.
Right.
If it's a 2-bedroom house and Fizz and Tyrone are away, then Evelyn or Cassie can sleep in that room.
Right. But there was at one point when Tyrone and Cassie and Evelyn and the girls were all staying in that flat together. So this sleeping arrangement...
because Evelyn just came in when Ty left.
What about before Evelyn went to Roy's?
No, there was always a swap over.
Well, where was Cassie staying before then?
The flat.
I thought she hated that flat.
She did.
Anyway, who knows? I mean... Think of the clown car that is Eileen's house. If that can work, anything can work. Although apparently a room is freeing up in Eileen's house, possibly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Looking for a lodger at Eileen's house.
Why Eileen and George don't just move into George's house just still confuses me.
The bottom line is, the show doesn't want us to think about this.
Yeah. And yet...
It's like... But it's impossible
not to think about it. Is that something else that the show has forgotten about? The fact that George has a big-ass house?
No, that got mentioned fairly recently. Because Glenda was going to go live in it.
Right, and then she doesn't. Why?
But the show remembered it, so we'll have to give it credit where it's due.
But she'd prefer to live in a room over the Rovers. She'd prefer to live with Jenny and Daisy.
Yeah, maybe she likes the company.
And, you know, the employees' bedrooms in a cruise ship are like closets.
Right.
So maybe this is enough for her. Anyway, I think we've talked about where people sleep in Coronation Street a little too much.
Quite enough. On Friday, Fizz is feeling like a fifth wheel at home. Evelyn is helping Ruby with her monologue about her hero, Evelyn. But Carla wants a meeting with Fizz. So Fizz thinks this is to talk about her ideas. And it is. Carla likes the ideas. And they might make some changes. But when Fizz wants to be involved in a supervisory capacity again, Carla draws the line. She's not looking to promote anyone, she says. But she will pay Fizz for the ideas. After all, they were hers. So Fizz now feels like a fifth wheel at work too. In the Rovers, she complains to Tyrone about all this and she's thinking about looking for a management role elsewhere. At home, Tyrone explains to Elon how Fizz has been feeling, so when Ruby practices her monologue later, they get Fizz to record it, and she's made up when it's rewritten so that Fizz is the hero after all, and it all works fine until Ruby talks about Cerberus and doing the British Telecom ads in the 1980s. And that's as far as we get with that this week. I liked how they did this. Fizz coming back, having seen all the grass is greener in that Norfolk.
Right.
Full of bright ideas, and it just takes 2 days for her spirit to be crushed.
Right, yeah. Living on the beach, you know, living on the water. She talks about living on the water and having all that space and being responsible for lots of people and stuff. It is a wee shame that Carla can't see her way to...
Well, Sarah does nothing.
Seriously, Sarah isn't even in the factory at all this week. She's not there once.
I think Sally has a kind of senior role amongst the other knicker people, and maybe that's a position that's bestowed on Sally by Sally.
Sally needs to wind her neck in this week. A lot. In another storyline. It was Beth who was like, well, they were going to give me a supervisory management role, and then they didn't. So if they weren't going to give it to me, they're not going to give it to you. And it's like, Beth, do you know who you are?
Yes. Remember when Beth was taking the notes?
Yeah, it was hilarious. And then we remember that Beth and Kirk have a very active sex life, and all is right with the world.
Yeah. Kirk was Kirk again this week. Did you notice?
Well, yes, but he was Kirk about sex with Beth, and that's okay. That's better than yo-yos.
I don't remember getting a birthday suit. Oh, Kirk. Kirk. He has the brain of a child.
No, don't say that, because then that ruins the delight that I have that he and Beth have lots of the sex. Because I don't want to think
It's
of
Poor
Beth.
Things all over again.
Oh, God, and I got into a huge discussion about it today.
Why do you do this?
Well, it was with
You changed nobody's mind.
Actually, I changed two people's minds. Because it was with a friend, you know, and then one of her friends piped in while she and I were discussing it and said, you know what? You're absolutely right. I did not think about that while I was watching the movie, and now it's all I could think about. I can't believe that they skated over that so effectively that it didn't even occur to me that it was basically child rape all the way through that movie.
Everybody loves that fucking movie.
That fucking movie. There's lots of movies people love and adore that I feel like a crazy person for not liking. And yet, How to Have Sex, a movie I dislike strongly almost as much as Poor Things. It is my most liked review on Letterboxd still. So at least 13 people agree with me as far as that movie is
Most liked in
concerned.
13. Anyway, I don't want to yuck your yum.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said to the person that I was talking about. Eventually I said this to her. I don't want to... And we got it, like, the discussion went all the way into talking about the 1975 film Sallow. So, yeah, it was one of those types of discussions. Anyway. Or 101 Days in Sodom.
I'm aware of it. I've seen it.
Have you?
Yeah, it was on TV in the UK back in the 90s. I watched it, and that night I had the strangest dream I've ever had in my life.
No. Mm-hmm. Did it involve shit eating?
No, I'll tell you later what it involved.
Okay.
It was actually Sallow that made me realise that sexuality is a spectrum. So,
There you go.
it gave me that. It went a really weird way to do it, but that's what it did.
Anyway. Wow. This is... Whew, we have veered so far off of Coronation Street.
I don't know if it's worthwhile. I don't know if it's worthwhile continuing.
We're in Italy now. Somewhere.
I think we're done speaking about the Fizz storyline, though, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Fizz is back. We're pleased to see her. I wish that she would get a better job at the factory, because let's face it, it costs them nothing to do it.
It really
Just
doesn't.
give her some supervisory responsibility and she'll be quite happy.
Right. Or like a sales responsibility or something. I mean, Carla gives everybody a job
I
who
know.
she's related to. Michael got his job back.
Yeah.
She gave Bobby...
Stephen got his job back.
She gave Bobby a job, which he's actually quite good at because he's got the gift of the gab,
He
but
does.
still.
All right, our next storyline is Tommy OMFG. On Monday, Steve has reached a conclusion. He's done. It's over. He's no longer a Weathy County fan, and he's thrown away all his green and white
No,
stuff.
he's not throwing it away. He's going to sell it on eBay.
Or sell it on eBay. Ken thinks that he should pick a new team. In the pub later, Steve and Tim are resigned to swapping allegiances.
That was hilarious, by the way. The way Ken is just like, oh, well, you know, there are other football teams you could support.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve looks at him like, what are you talking about?
So Steve
You're
and Tim...
in Manchester, Steve. Come on.
Steve and Tim are resigned to swapping allegiances. Neither of them are City or United men. They want something smaller, like West Didsbury and Charlton. But they need more drink before they can make up their minds. And Tim actually sounds as though he's conflicted. He was just thinking that Steve was going to change his allegiances and he was going to stick with Weathy County, but
Right.
Steve talks him round.
Yeah. Tim's like, he didn't shag my wife.
Rockford Range, he tried,
He did.
and he would have.
He would have. To keep her quiet.
Rockford Rangers have
Ugh.
good pies, but no seated covering, and that's a deal clincher for Tim. Tommy O comes in and is disgusted that the lads are ditching County. Steve tells him to suck his balls and calls him a hypocrite for abandoning County for Spain, and that shuts Tommy up. Steve reckons that when that happens, Tracy will come crawling back to him. That showed him, says Tim. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of nonsense here, but changing your allegiances is something that you do very, very carefully.
I don't know. I kind of think, okay, well, I am a Red Sox fan until I die.
There you go.
That has not changed. However, I used to be quite fond of the Patriots before Flatgate, obviously, and also before moving here. And now I'm quite fond of the Lions.
Yeah, but that's American
Even
football.
before-
That's not important. And we're talking about soccer here.
Baseball is very important, excuse you.
Yeah,
That's why I'm a Red Sox fan
I'm
until
sure
I
it's
die.
a very important pastime.
It's a sport.
This whole bit was just for the bit at the end where Steve tells Tommy that he knows about the Spain gig and Tracy.
Yeah.
But Tracy's not come back to Steve.
No. Tommy O did
Or
look...
not yet, anyway.
Tommy O looked very concerned that he knew about Spain, though. Did you notice that?
Yeah. I was surprised that Tommy O was trying to noise them up because, let's remember, Tommy, these two aren't your friends anymore.
No. You slept with Steve's wife.
You'd be as well just keeping your mouth shut and drinking your beer and going home.
Right. Although I can kind of understand why he would be sad that they are no longer loyal to County, because he no longer plays for them and it's a bigger thing than him. It's not like all of the players with the County slept with Tracy.
Well,
She's not Cartman's mom
that's right.
who slept with an entire football team.
Oh, South Park. That was season 1 South Park.
Yes, I
Or was
know.
it season 2?
No,
Season
it
one,
was season 2. Which is like over 20 years old.
Oh my god. Our next storyline is the Polygon of Love. On Monday, it looks like Ryan and Daisy have gotten their hole as they come down the stairs of the Rovers together. Jenny's still concerned, but Daisy insists that she's happy, and this is a good thing. Ryan nips over the road to see Carla at the factory, but she has fuck all going in terms of jobs for him. He lets it slip about. Him and Daisy, and Carla has to swallow down the bile. Carla hurries over to the pub to shout at Daisy, who insists that Ryan isn't a placeholder in her life, and she's not proud of how she behaved in the past, but they both want this, and they want it to work. Jenny pretends to take Daisy's side, so Carla slinks off. Then, doubling down on everyone's opinion, Daisy offers Ryan a job at the Rovers.
Without talking to Jenny first.
He accepts, and Jenny is predictably put out by Daisy and her hasty decisions, and that's as far as we get with that.
I'm not talking to her first. Because they are co-owners. You have to talk to your co-owner about hiring someone before you hire someone.
Yeah, and this all feels very much like it's leading somewhere with the disapproval that Jenny has to Daisy and the way that she's handling these things. It's going to cause some headaches between the two of them about the Rovers and their shady dealings of how they got their hands in it. And surely it's all going to
come out.
Just come back and bite them both on the
asses
on the backside. So, I mean, Ryan and Daisy getting back together.
It's predictable.
It's predictable and a step backwards
for both of them.
What Ryan really should be doing is taking a further step backwards. And hello, Alia's there.
Yay!
The two of them were good together.
So good together. I loved that coupling. That was great. That worked. But
and
it
I
worked
get angry
without...
because every time I remember why that now doesn't work, it's because it was Daisy.
Right. Yeah. And Ryan deciding to say, or no, Alia deciding to say, you know, I just got stabbed and blown up. So I'm not really looking for a relationship right now. And Ryan taking that as, well, I got to shag somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to shag somebody.
Yeah, I just see this as being the more used for the catalyst of how people are going to find out about how they got their hands in the pub.
Right. And get Daisy and Daniel back together.
That's not going to be pretty. Yes, and get Daisy and Daniel back together.
Right. Because you know that's going to happen.
Which I've kind of made my peace with. I don't think they were brilliant, but
it's better than Bethany.
It's better than Bethany.
Anything's better than Bethany.
All right, let's move on. Our next storyline is Dick and Dom. Oh, this is a thing again. Oh,
it is a thing again.
Why does the show hate us?
Because we rip it to shreds every week.
With love.
With love.
We rip it to shreds with love.
With love, yes.
All right, let's play.
We want it to be better for its own sake.
Hey, we were very enthusiastic about it a couple of weeks ago. And,
yes.
And last week as well. On Wednesday, Stu and Eliza are still a thing. They're heading off to visit her murderous mother, and she is predictably in a mood because Eliza is always in a mood. Later at the precinct, Jasmine sees Dom get into a taxi, or who she thinks is Dom getting into a taxi. It's kind of impossible to tell because the man's got his hood up.
Right, and she shouts Dom at him multiple times, and he doesn't even look over. You know, that you would think that even if he doesn't want to talk to her, there'd be that reflex there when you hear your name.
You always turn around when you hear your name.
You always turn around. Yes, you always turn around when you hear your name.
So Jasmine tells Stu about this at work later, and Stu thinks this would mean that he would be in touch. So the fact that he hasn't been in touch makes him doubt Jasmine's eyesight. And right enough, the man did have his hood up. On Friday, at Speed Dial, Dom comes in to speak to Stu. Because
So it was Dom.
So it was Dom after all. You'll be owing Jasmine an apology then, Stu.
And also
not.
Dom.
And he's there to give his 10 grand back. He's sick at himself for selling out his own daughter, and he thinks Eliza is better off without him. Stu, who, if you can be bothered to remember, hates what he did and wants to put it right, tells Dom to stay. Stu tells him how Eliza has been since he left, grumpy as fuck as usual, and she needs him in her life, but Dom doesn't have the energy to be a dad to his son and his daughter, and he reckons that Eliza deserves better. He's only back to sort out some affairs, and he would rather that she didn't know he was back, and he leaves the envelope of money for Stu. And that's as far as we get with that. Dom leaves, Dom comes back, Dom says he's going to leave, Stu wants him to stay.
He gets the money back. Wait, did Yasmin know about the money part of this?
Well, if she didn't,
she knows now.
Her curiosity is zero to seeing an envelope getting passed between the two of them.
Right.
So she must have known about it. I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Why are we persisting with this dull pish?
You know why I think we're persisting with this dull pish? It's because the world is going to finally find out that it was Mason who ran Eliza over.
Does Dom need to be there for that to happen?
I think they're setting up something where...
Oh, Eliza's not safe, so Eliza will go and live in Germany or wherever it was.
Right.
With Dom and her half-brother or...
And stepmom.
Oh, well, see if that does happen.
Or
I will be furious because I've had to sit through the familial to and fro in this storyline for weeks and months. In fact, probably about a year. In fact, Eliza's been in the show for 2 years. So that's...
has she?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So that's as long as it's been since the whole, remember, Stu's a murderer, but is he really? Wink, wink storyline.
And he's not.
That's kind of kicked off the whole Stu has a backstory and a family. This is not the backstory we were interested in.
No.
But this is not the family that we were interested in.
No.
It did mean, though, that Stu went to several houses and got the door slammed in his face.
That was hilarious.
And that was always funny.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's given us nothing...
Not really.
Nothing else apart from Stu becoming a really curmudgeonly,
Dick.
grumpy old man.
Yeah.
And we've got enough of him.
Yeah. Because he's kind of turning into the kind of curmudgeonly old man who hates immigrants and doesn't date them. He seems kind of MAGA, doesn't he? If he were in this
MAGA
country,
Stu.
He'd own a red hat. But anyway, it's either that or either Dom or Stu are going to attack Mason and get themselves thrown in prison as well. And then it's all over.
Oh, that might be an interesting exit for Dom to take the law into his own hands.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It kind of feels like we have to have as much of Eliza's family in the show before we find out who mowed her over. They don't seem to be very concerned. They're not like beating down the police station door saying, hey, nobody has been prosecuted for this yet. Why not?
Oh,
Why
sure.
haven't you found the person who stole this car and ran us over?
I'm sure they've given up on it.
And Tyrone does not seem concerned that they are going to catch the person who stole his car.
He got his car back. That's all he cared about.
Right, it's true.
Yeah, that's interesting. That might be a decent way out of it. I don't know. It's just I see nobody excited or pleased to see this storyline come back. All I see are people just bored at even the thought of it.
Let's be honest, though. People are not interested in any of these storylines on social medias. Nobody seems to. People are especially angry about what we're going to talk about soon. That happens.
Well, I think
in
people.
another storyline.
I think people haven't, maybe not enjoyed it, but I don't think people have hated the bullying storyline as much as they hate Dom coming back.
Well, they hate. Lots of people are upset about the bullying storyline because it's very triggering to people who were bullied as children.
Sure.
And it feels like the show is not taking that into consideration. But I was also thinking of the Lauren storyline where things happened this week that people are quite up in arms about.
All right, well, let's move on to that because that's the next storyline, which is where on earth is racist Kelly? On Wednesday at the factory, Bobby, phone! Bobby has been putting up missing posters for racist Kelly, seeing as her redemption arc has obviously gone walkabout. And later he meets up with Zuki from the Weathy Gazette and Nina Rolls to make an urgent video appeal.
Why?
No one gives a solitary fuck about any of this, but Bobby insists that everyone is worried.
Yeah, the fact that the Gazette is there doing this video at all is shocking to me.
Yes.
Because...
It's like he's doing a press conference to one person.
Right.
Zuki asks Roy, as her previous employer, what he has to add to this, and Roy makes a total arse of it.
Yeah, he does.
Says that they didn't part on good terms, and otherwise he's not at liberty to discuss.
Right, because he doesn't want to embarrass Lauren about the whole searching through a bag thing, but it sounds very sus.
Privately, Roy tells Nina that he's sure racist Kelly is resourceful and will be okay. Nina is the first person to note that Bobby is the only one who gives two shits about any of this.
Thank you, Nina.
There was a lovely bit in this episode, though, where Bobby's in the factory and I think he's printing off the missing posters or something like that. And Carla's having a conversation with Ryan and she says, hang around long enough, you might get a job, because if a certain somebody doesn't get their arse into gear, they'll be fucking kicked out of here.
Right.
And off camera, you just heard Bobby going, love you.
Yep.
That was
great.
That was hilarious.
That was great. I did love that.
Love you.
Love you.
On Friday, Ryan and Carla are chatting about racist Kelly's disappearance when Bobby announces that he's taken the day off to follow up a lead from Dirty Nigel on the Not Only But Also fans. Carla insists that he turns up for work, but Bobby is determined to find his fellow human. Meanwhile, Evelyn's landlord has given her a bollocking about the state of the flat after already giving her a bollocking about subletting.
Right.
And has ordered her to clean it up. Evelyn blames Roy's do-gooding for all this, so Roy promises to clean it up for her.
And also she's helping Ruby with that presentation.
So he gets his Henry Hoover out, goes round to racist Kelly's, and that's what he does. The place is a fucking mess right enough, and he seems to clean up a bit of blood. Oops.
On a carpet.
Then he finds a rubber Johnny under the sofa and throws it out just as Bobby comes in.
Yeah, that was kind of hilarious because it wasn't the blood that made him put gloves on. It was the wrapper for the condom.
He'd taken his gloves off when he picked up. He'd just taken them off when he picked up the Johnny. It was hilarious because...
And then he immediately put them back on again.
If he'd picked up like 2 minutes earlier, he'd have been well protected. No pun intended.
Right. And it's just the wrapper. And he's holding it like it's an actual used condom. It's hilarious.
Bobby comes in wanting to know what the fuck Roy is doing there, and he reckons that this is fishy as fuck. Roy says it was either him or the landlord that would do this, and he wanted to save racist Kelly's stuff. He invites Bobby to go through the bags and then get all the way off his back.
Yes, but at no point in this conversation where Bobby is almost blatantly accusing Roy of wrongdoing,
Yes.
does Roy say, look, she sublet this from my friend Evelyn. Evelyn has asked me to clean it out for her. At no point is Evelyn's name mentioned.
No.
That would have cleared it up 100%. Because that's why he's there. He's not there. He didn't decide to just go up and clean the flat. It is also weird that he's still wearing his apron from work.
He put that on specially.
He was wearing it when Evelyn came in and asked him.
Yeah, but he when he went to the flat, you saw him put the apron on.
Yeah, why?
To keep himself clean.
That's his apron for work. It's gross.
He also brought a tiny little old-fashioned tape recorder.
That was cute.
That was quite cute.
Yeah, I liked that part. But still,
And a tape recorder very much like that from a ZX Spectrum back in the day.
I'm pretty sure there's one floating around this house somewhere.
I'm sure.
But, yeah, at no point when Bobby is asking Roy to explain himself does he explain why he's there cleaning.
And
He says shady stuff
right.
and vague stuff, but at no point does he say, Evelyn asked me to do this for her because it is her flat, not Lauren's.
I don't really have a problem with Roy not telling Bobby everything, because Roy doesn't really know Bobby. Who among us knows Bobby? But when there's one piece of information that could just dispel the whole thing and it's deliberately held back, it feels kind of cheap.
And it's not even important information. It's not like him being vague with the Weathy Gazette because he doesn't want to embarrass Lauren about the going through Bethany's purse thing. This is just the two of you in a flat. He's asking you why you're in the flat and telling him that it's a favor to Evelyn, hurts no one, embarrasses no one. There is no reason not to tell him why you in particular are cleaning out this flat.
Well, there's a very good reason why he doesn't say it.
Well, besides plot.
Right, so the rest of the story can happen.
Right, yeah, which is like you said, cheap.
Yeah.
Very cheap.
Bobby goes into the factory to loudly complain about Roy, who he calls a weirdo, and kind of insinuates that he might be a pedo as well. Carla tells him to watch his mouth.
And on the spectrum.
And fuck off. He goes to Max to complain about Roy to him.
Everybody in the factory tells him to fuck off.
Yes.
Everyone defends Roy, and that's fantastic.
But this is the great thing, is that Bobby doesn't really know Roy.
Right.
Everyone has known Roy
forever.
For decades.
Yeah.
Bobby hasn't.
And yet have seemed to have forgotten when he was creepy and a stalker.
Yeah, everyone's forgotten that.
Yeah.
Everyone's forgotten that. 20 years ago, they've already forgotten it.
Right.
So he goes to Max to complain about Roy to him, but Max thinks Daniel is just as good a candidate.
He still hates Daniel.
And they should check out her subscribers on Not Only But Also Fans.
I love the consistency of Max hating Daniel.
Yes, he's totally got a thing for getting Max done for getting Daniel done for this. Max remembers that she had an old account that Ryan had reported. So Bobby goes to see Ryan, but he's not a huge help. He just knows that she was making the videos for a while before he found out. He points out that it's only been a couple of weeks, and he recommends that Bobby makes things right with Carla. So Bobby steals flowers from Dev and apologises. Bobby knows everyone thinks that racist Kelly's fine, but he's never been so close to getting his hole in his life, so he's not about to give up now. And that's as far as we get with that. Because that's what it is, isn't it? That's the only reason he cares.
No, I think he genuinely likes racist Kelly.
But who else likes racist Kelly? Max likes racist Kelly. Sabrina likes racist
Max
Kelly.
is also worried.
Not
Max,
to the point where they're printing posters and going on investigations like Scooby-Doo.
Max is helping Bobby get on the OnlyFans to help look for clues.
Yeah, but only because Bobby went round.
No.
Max is not spending any moment of his waking life
Max
on
and
this.
Sabrina were already concerned
He's
about
going
them.
backwards and forwards between Maria and David this week. That's all the stuff that he's doing.
And he's also helping Bobby in one scene.
He doesn't, yeah, in one scene.
And he does care, and he also cares about racist Kelly because he was concerned even before she disappeared that she was being harmed by this boyfriend, and that also she was on the OnlyFans thing, which is not called OnlyFans on the show. I can't remember what it's called. I don't care.
Well, in that case, I'm not going to tell you.
But here's the thing. This week, no one cares
About racist Kelly.
about racist Kelly. Next week, apparently, everyone will care. And I'm confused as to how that jump is going to happen. I'm not going to mention the spoilers on why I know everyone will care. But everyone will care.
Well, I know nothing, I don't think.
Yes, you do.
Do I?
Yeah.
There is a storyline that racist Kelly should be involved in right now. And that storyline is racist Kelly going to Nottingham, tracking down Darian, and apologising for being a horrible racist cow to him.
Yes.
And insinuating to other people that he was coming on to her when he wasn't, which got him beat up and threatened.
Yeah.
That's what
When it was
racist Kelly-
actually all of those people beating him up who were raping racist Kelly as a child.
That should be what racist Kelly's doing.
Except for Spider.
And until she does something like that, you're not going to make me care about this.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, I care about it a little bit because of Bobby. But that's it.
And wouldn't you have thought that would have happened a month or so ago?
The first week he was there, he was awful. But now he's grown on me.
He's got his feet under the table for me as well, and he's done
adorable.
it. He's done it rather well.
He's very cute.
Love you. That was just so good.
It was perfect.
So
he still has some of the sass, but it's not like overblown stand-up.
yeah,
And they've taken away his little trumpet or whatever it was.
that trumpet was seen once and then destroyed.
Yes. As well as everything that was in those boxes.
Yeah, thank God. I like this from the point of view that it gives Bobby something to do without annoying anybody or annoying as few people as possible. And I guess I kind of like how he's so determined.
Right.
I do think it's more about his hole than anything else, though. But I could be wrong.
If one of your friends just disappeared and left a bacon sandwich, how
If
gross!
somebody who I'd known for 2 weeks had disappeared,
And left a bacon sandwich on the counter.
I probably wouldn't have noticed.
Well, you would if you went to their house and there's a bacon sandwich just sitting there. How gross is that bacon sandwich now? That was so gross.
Yeah.
They cared enough to put mold on it. I wonder if they just left it there for 2 weeks in that apartment and just didn't touch it.
That seems to be the easiest way to
Or
do it.
did they spray paint it green?
We had a friend who was a friend of ours for like a summer who disappeared.
Yeah, and he's still kind of missing.
And every now and again I think, I wonder what happened to Jay. Mm-hmm. That's what Bobby should be doing right now.
Right. I think if we if when he went missing, we went to his house and it looked suspicious, we would do something. Remember when my 5th grade teacher disappeared like 4 years ago?
I do not remember that.
And it was like in the news in Connecticut. And like me and like everybody I went to elementary school were freaking out going, oh my God, did you see that Mr. Manley disappeared? They still haven't found him. And nobody's like,
Nobody's gone
asked.
through his.
Nobody's wondering.
His not only, but also fans.
I don't think you should say that because it's quite possible the man is dead somewhere. Jay, on the other hand, I don't think he's dead.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Let's move on to our last storyline then. This is Bully for You. On Monday, poor Liam can't even nip off for a shout without Maria banging down the bathroom door. There's one
He's
thing
in
that
the
I
shower.
hate. There's one thing that I hate. Talking to people through the bathroom door while I'm trying to do a shit.
Yeah, he was in the shower though.
She's up to high dough. Yeah, but that's not funny. She's up to high dough because there's another meeting at the school and they're dragging him along with. First though, it's off to Nina's Rolls for a cuppa. Masons comes in, has the fucking cheek to say hi to Liam, and Maria leaps out of her seat.
Seriously.
Practically punches Mason into the next week. Gary has to restrain her as Mason hurries out.
Yeah, Mason, I think, was genuinely, for the first time ever, afraid.
Oh, I was afraid with Gary a couple of times
Well,
as well,
he
wasn't
was kind of afraid with Gary a couple of times, but it seemed to really freak him out that Maria is now trying to attack him.
Absolutely. At the school, while Crawshaw can't give Maria guarantees about Mason's expulsion, Liam is sitting outside the office and sees Mason bullying somebody else. Back home, Maria is for sending Liam to another school, but Gary points out that the other schools are rougher than Weathy High, and for every one Mason that they've got, they'll have 4. Maybe it's better the devil you know. Meanwhile, Liam tells Jake about seeing Mason bullying somebody else, and Jake remembers that Mason has a zombie knife and implores Liam to grass him up. Liam doesn't think this is his circus or his monkeys. So finally, sensible Jake takes matters into his own hands and grasses Mason up to Gary and Maria. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you, Jake. You have been one ray of sense throughout the storyline.
Right.
The advice that he's been given Liam all the way through this has been spot on.
And it's ridiculous because he's the younger kid.
He's the younger one. On Wednesday, Liam is far from happy that Jake told Gary and Maria about the knife and says Jake made it up. But when Liam describes it as a zombie knife, Gary knows he's lying because nobody mentioned zombie knife. That's the first rule of zombie knife.
Yes.
So Gary and Maria go to the cop shop to shout at PC Tinker for failing to follow up on his search of Mason from a few weeks ago. They tell him about Liam and Jake's accusation. Tinker says, bring them in to make a statement or get to fuck. Back home, Liam is further annoyed by this development and washes behind his ears, but Maria insists that this is how they make this end. So while Liam goes to do that, PC Tinker appears at Eileen's with 2 of his mates to search her house for the zombie knife. The search comes up blank, and Dylan denies all knowledge. PC Tinker reveals that they're also searching Mason's house. Later, Dylan and Mason meet in the Ginnell, and we learn that Mason has previous with a knife, and that Dylan hid the knife yesterday in the yard.
He chucked it over into Tyrone's yard.
In his bucket. Mason tells him to bring it to the precinct in half an hour, and they'll get rid of it together.
Sus.
So Dylan shows up at the precinct.
Stupid.
There's no sign of Mason. And PC Tinker turns up and searches Dylan, and wouldn't you believe it, he finds the fucking knife.
Yep.
Dylan the Cowardly Lion, you're nicked, he says. There's another great little moment, and a moment that I think, if the internet is to be believed, is the start of a different PC Tinker. Because when Dylan says to him, you've no right to do this, Tinker balls at him, yes, I can do this. And it's like, where has this PC Tinker been? I mean, we know he's corrupt and vaguely racist, but he's never been authoritative.
Yeah.
And he was in this.
Right, because Dylan's a child.
But he's been...
He doesn't speak like that to adults.
No, he looks kind of confused as flies
and
fly in
sheepish.
and out of his mouth.
And sheepish
But-
and, and apologetic.
So the follower on Twitter, who I think is an advisor to TV drama shows about police procedurals, and
Right.
they said, get ready for more of this. So
Hopefully.
I'd quite like that, because this was a tinker that I can get behind
Yeah.
a little bit. Because the problem with Tinker being a policeman is that he is that kind of...
Keystone Cop.
Yeah, bumbling PC Tinker is kind of what you think of him. If you had more authority and he did sort of command kind of a bit of respect, then you go, fair enough.
Yeah.
And he did show it there, and I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dylan's nicked. Later at the police station, they let Sean see Dylan, who insists it was Mason's knife and he's been set up. News of this. And apparently the joyriding, that's got back to Gary and Maria. Now, we never see this, do we?
That hasn't gotten back. The joyriding, I don't think, has gotten back.
They're talking about it. Mason, when Gary and Maria find out that Dylan has been arrested, they know about the joyriding at that point. And I'm like, did I miss a scene where we see Dylan telling the cops about the joyriding, and what exactly did they tell the cops?
Yeah, but no, he doesn't. And this is why I'm very confused in a later scene in the storyline where Dylan says to Mason, I've grassed you up
That was
about
tonight.
that. Yeah.
And I'm like,
When did that happen?
and what exactly did you tell him?
Right. Because it doesn't seem like they are concerned about the fact that he hit Eliza.
Because on Wednesday it's described as joyriding, and on Friday it's described as a hit and run.
Right.
Well, why aren't we seeing this? Because this is kind of important.
And why hasn't he been arrested for this? Because you'd think that, they would bring Mason in for questioning because he injured a minor.
Of anybody.
Right, but especially a minor. I don't care that it's Eliza. It's a minor.
So yeah, news of this, and apparently the joyriding has gone back to Gary and Maria. Gary is relieved, but Maria is finding little to be happy about, as Liam didn't tell her any of it. Sean gets Dee Dee along to represent Dylan, and her advice is simple. Tell the truth and throw this Mason prick under the bus at every opportunity, because that's what Mason has done to him. So that's what he does, and he tells Dee Dee that Mason has threatened people with a knife before. Dylan is allowed to go without charge, so back home, Eileen is fucking furious about the knife possibly being hidden in the house.
Right.
Sean stands
Rightly
up.
so.
Sean stands up for Dylan because if Eileen finds out what actually happened, she'd throw the pair of them out, he says, a little foreboding.
Yes.
But after dinner, if Sean and Dylan thought their day couldn't get any worse, it does, when Dee Dee comes along to tell them that police have decided to charge Dylan after all. On Friday, today is the day Dylan gets charged and he's shitting his breeks. Sean is looking on the bright side, saying everything will work out fine, that he was set up by Mason, but George isn't convinced. Sean's opinion that Dylan is squeaky clean continues when he runs into Gary. This is all Mason's doing. Meeting with Dee Dee in Nina's roles, though, and she thinks it might be better if he pleads guilty, which appalls Sean, who doesn't think Dylan did anything wrong. Meanwhile, at the Rose Gold flat, Liam takes the bins out and bumps into Dylan, who finally wants to apologise. Liam doesn't want to hear it and reveals how he thought about killing himself, and this shocks Dylan. And then we have Brass Neck of the Week. Brass Neck of the Week! Mason goes round to Eileen's looking for Dylan. Chap, chap, chap on the door. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't believe
Hello.
the front of this guy.
Can Dylan come out and play?
Sean,
And he's like shocked that they don't want him in the house.
right. Sean and Eileen both tell him to suck their balls, and he's sent on his fucking way, the wee scrot. Dylan is round the corner and sees this. Later, Dylan tells Sean that he was part of the bullying, he knew what was going on, and he plans to plead guilty. Sean is a hard no on that and would rather that his son takes no responsibility for any of the dodgy shit that he got up to. But Dylan explains to his dad about doing the right thing and Liam's suicidal thoughts. Eileen and George come in and hear this. Sean desperately tries to cover for Dylan again, but lets slip that the knife was in the house after all, and Eileen is outraged, forgetting the time that she had a serial killer in her house.
Yes, but she was shagging the serial killer, so it was okay.
Meanwhile, Mason has found Dylan in the community garden, and he's thrilled to hear that Dylan is pleading guilty, but less so to hear that Dylan told the cops about the hit and run. Gary's on the other side of the street and sees this discussion but doesn't hear it. And later he bumps into Sean and Eileen, Sean again blaming Mason for everything, including Liam's suicidal thoughts, until Gary points out that Dylan and Mason were best buds in the community garden just a few minutes ago, and reckons
Which isn't actually true.
that his kid with that knife under his roof should be cause for concern. And Eileen makes a face.
Right, yeah. And he's rightly so. He's like, you hear about this sort of thing in the newspaper and you breathe a sigh of relief that it doesn't happen on your street.
Excellent stuff from Gary.
Yeah. And that until the time that it does. And then I just have to laugh to myself and think, yeah, Gary, like the time you made a whole factory collapse on this street and killed a woman.
R.I.P. Rana. Sean goes to speak with Dee Dee, thinking that maybe he is a terrible dad after all, and reveals that he hasn't told Dylan's mum, Violet, about any of this. How very fucking hell. And when Sean goes back to Eileen's, his day gets worse when she announces that she feels uneasy with Dylan in the house and they need to find somewhere else to live. I'm sure Dylan's living arrangements in the future will be less complicated, but Sean hopes that Carol is still in his Rolodex. And that is how we end this week's episodes.
Yes.
So when Sean got homeless that time,
Yeah.
Eileen was terribly guilty about how Sean never explained his situation with his
Right.
money and stuff, and how he's always got his home, and
Right.
but Eileen's got a limit.
And she's
And
she's
if
got a
that
point.
makes Sean homeless again, well,
She's got a point.
hell mend him.
Maybe he can sleep top to tails with Adam at Dee Dee's flat.
I think it would be different if Sean had been even a little bit. Well, I was going to say that angry and disappointed in Dylan.
But he was last week, and now all of a sudden he's back to, oh, my poor child has been led astray.
And this
by
is
the
all
evil
Mason's
Mason.
fault. Everything's Mason's fault.
Right.
And to an extent, it's true.
It is.
But
However,
as Dylan rightly says, he was
He's a
maybe
willing
an
participant.
unwilling participant in the whole thing.
It kind of feels like initially he was an unwilling participant, but it does kind of feel like eventually he kind of got into it a little bit.
He
there.
required no coaxing to be videotaping some of the stuff that was happening, throwing stuff at Liam, and as Dylan says, sending horrible messages to him.
Right, yeah.
So Dylan is, if anything, Eileen should just throw out Sean and let Dylan continue to stay there.
Right, because Dylan's going to be in juvie here in a minute anyway.
Right, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Because as Craig rightly pointed out to him, it doesn't matter whose knife it is. You're the one who had this zombie knife
Yep.
in the precinct on a playground
Yeah. Yes.
with children.
Yep. Won't anybody think of the children?
And that's illegal.
Yeah, just carrying that knife about is illegal.
Yeah. May as well have been a gun.
And treated as if it is, essentially, in
Yeah.
the UK.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because knife crime is a big problem.
Right.
Or at least a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Because of the lack of guns.
yeah.
And it's good because knives don't kill people as much as guns kill people.
You've got a better chance of running away from somebody
With a knife.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they're not going to throw it at you. Or if they do, it's not going to harm you if they throw it at you.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what's going to happen to Sean, and with mention of Violet
Well, we knew she was
coming
coming.
into something, so we know that she's coming back. She's not going to be happy about any of this, because let's face it, Dylan was sent away from that big bad London
Because of bullying.
to be safe, and under Sean's charge, Dylan's going to end up
Unsafe.
pleading guilty to carrying a dangerous weapon and all the bullying stuff. And then, was he involved in the hit and run?
No. Neither
It was
he...
the other pals.
No, it was just Mason in that car. There was only one person in that car.
That's right.
And they only know that it was Mason because Mason told them.
He's such an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. And he still has the balls to claim to be upset about Liam or Dylan grassing him up about the stupid knife, because then he turns around and grasses Dylan up for the stupid knife.
Why nobody says this to him?
No. Again, communication on the show sucks.
It drives me crazy. Mason has been grassing people up all the way through this storyline.
Yeah.
To teachers and to parents and to the police. He's the biggest grass amongst them all. Oh, it's just... It's so agitating and aggravating. And I guess that's the point. And it just makes you hate Mason's character even more because he's such a hypocrite. And he's such a coward as well.
Absolutely.
Because, you're carrying that knife about. It's a cowardly thing. Just
Right,
from the
yeah.
start.
And to be like, oh, well, I can't get accused again because I already have one on my record. And it's like, well, then maybe you shouldn't have even had it in the first place.
I'm still a little frustrated as well about not knowing exactly why Mason is the way that he is, or getting any real clues about it. We just know that he's a wrong and from the wrong side of the tracks.
Well, we don't even know that. We don't know where he lives.
We do, because Gary talked about it before, about that area or that estate that he's from. So he's from a bad estate.
See, I took that as Gary assuming something.
No, he knew where that family was from. He'd heard of that family.
It's nice that there's been some progress on the storyline.
Yeah, it was a big old progress this week, and it's all thanks to lovely, lovely Jake.
Yes.
Who decides to say, fuck this storyline's been going on
Far
long
too
enough.
long. It's time for me to take charge.
Let's get some action going here. And do you know what? I was pleased to see Dylan getting done for the knife.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate Mason much, much more than I hate Dylan. But Dylan is a cowardly bully.
Yeah. And he did have that knife on a playground.
And when this is...
And he was so dumb for believing Mason in the first place. The whole, take it and go to this very public place so we can get rid of it together.
Uh-huh.
Why Dylan fell for that?
But give me half an hour and can I borrow your phone?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
No, these are the consequences of your actions coming back. And it was a very satisfying moment on Wednesday.
It was.
I just also wanted to say, Liam McShane, who plays Dylan, is perfectly cast in the role.
He is.
When you saw Sean and him standing kind of side by side, you're like,
yeah,
I believe that that's his son.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe it.
Yeah.
Cast brilliantly. And what a little tour de force of acting from Liam
Yes.
as Dylan
Right.
in tonight's show
Yeah.
when he was accepting responsibility. It was great stuff.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, that was the week that was Coronation Street. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
Is it everybody at the factory defending Roy?
Was that your moment of the week?
I kind of think so. We gave it to Maria and Liam last week. Or the week before. I don't know. What was your moment of the week?
I really liked Tinker arresting Dylan. That was my favourite bit of the show this week. I watched it a couple of times. I enjoyed it that much. But if you want to, I don't know, give it to people liking Roy.
Well, no, defending Roy.
Okay.
Because there's not an awful lot of things that everybody in the factory is going to defend.
It was a bit of a maelstrom of outrage.
Yes.
And indignity.
Right. Yeah. For Beth and Sally to agree on something, that's pretty huge.
Okay, that's out.
Moment of the week.
Oh, I remember the other thing that I was kind of thinking for moment of the week was Ruby's video.
Oh, no, it's pish.
Oi!
Boring moment of the week.
Ruby's video? No. Daniel being horrible to Sarah the second time. No. Ken bringing Sarah and Bethany coffee in the hospital and them being like, oh my God, thank you so much. I haven't eaten all day.
I realised that. You're going to eat your coffee, Sarah? Is that what you're doing? You're going to eat the cup?
Yeah.
Is that boring or just a kind of oversight? That felt like a line that wasn't in the script, that she just said to make it feel natural, and unfortunately said eat instead of drink.
Yeah.
Is that boring?
Yes. It involved Ken.
Did
Can
it
you
though?
think of anything? Yes, because Ken's the one who brought them coffee.
The bit that I get bored about is Daniel constantly apologising for his behaviour.
And then immediately doing the same behavior
Then
again.
doing it again.
All right, fine.
And it's been a while since we've actually given it to Daniel. It's been a couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So that's out.
Boring moment of the week.
But Daniel is terrible every week.
Yes. What's your Daniel boring moment of the week this week?
Can we just all agree that Daniel should not be allowed within 10 feet of any woman,
He shouldn't be allowed to speak to people.
especially women?
What was your score out of 10 this week?
Far more condescending to women than anyone else. 6.
I would give it a 7. I still enjoyed it this week. I liked the progress in the bullying storyline. I was very disappointed in the Dom and stew stuff, but it was kept to a minimum. But yeah, I thought it was another decent week. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast, Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Trisha, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy and Shandy. If you've ever found a rubber Johnny down the back of the sofa, did you throw it away or did you slide it in your back pocket? We're the talkofthestreet@gmail.com and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by going to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. Check out the clicky section of vogle.co.uk for links to our merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
Please.
Thanks for making it to
We're
the
talking
end.
about the Oscars.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
I Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.